Good day, wherever you are. My name is Teacher Nick, and I just wanted to jump on here today, give you a couple of tips with the AS level paper 1. For many of the students, they'll be writing it tomorrow, so let's jump right in. Okay, so I wanted to give you just a couple of tips in that things that I see, that I want students to remember going into their exams. And the first thing you're going to need to practice is your key conventions. Okay, the key conventions or text conventions, some of your teachers might call them genres. Okay, these are common features that are found in all texts. And the idea behind the key conventions is to actually help the reader locate that important information. Okay, so if you know your key conventions, you know your text type, you know what to expect from your text. Okay, so study your key conventions in the same way, that you study your multiplication tables. Okay, memorize them. Okay, in question 1, okay, the key conventions are going to help you to understand the similarities and differences in that question for both the 1A and then, of course, within your comparative analysis. Okay, so if you know what your key conventions are, you're going to know what structural devices, language devices that you can create that will be both similar and different. In question 2, the key conventions are very, very important. We find that Cambridge likes to have more than one key convention in the texts that they produce. So be aware of your key conventions and how texts might have a mixture of certain key conventions. Discuss those key conventions. It's part of form. Okay, it's part of your overall form. Okay, tip number 2, okay, know your structural devices. Okay, and I'm going to do a video on the different structural devices, but there are some fabulous people out there that have some great videos on structural devices. Mr. Everything English is definitely one of them. I would check out his videos on structural devices. The structural devices that you find within a text, it's basically the way that authors organize their information. Okay, and it's going to help you basically understand how the text comes together. Now, whether it be question 1 or question 2, you want to list at least 2 or 3 structural devices within your text. Remember, question 1B says compare the 2 texts with a focus on form, structure, and language. And I see students basically just talking about language devices and they miss out on the form and the structure of the text. It is vitally important. A good example of a structural device would be, say, repetition or patterns. Patterns are so important inside a piece of text. Okay? Understand the purpose of that pattern that the writer has created. Okay? And then think about the effect that that pattern is going to have on the reader. It's that effect on reader that is so vital, so vital when it comes to textual analysis. Tip number 3, know your language devices. And know language devices are not just the similes and metaphors, okay? Students miss out on simplistic things like word classes. And I'm going to do a video specifically on the different language devices that are available. Okay, those adjectives, those adverbs, those verbs, they're fantastic because you can zoom in on that specific adjective or that specific adverb in your point evidence explain, and you can you've got an entire paragraph of discussion just on your adjectives or your adverbs. Okay, Any low frequency words. So what I mean by those low frequency words is big words or strange words. Okay, words that basically stand out. Now, if you don't know the meaning of the word, it's probably not a good idea to do to write a paragraph on it. Okay, but again, that's where reading and developing our vocabulary is so important. Punctuation. Do not underestimate the power of the punctuation. Okay, punctuation, vitally important. Okay, we miss, how important punctuation is. Focus on those hyphens, those semicolons, those colons, okay? Ellipsis, okay? Punctuation in that, there's always going to be something in the text worth discussing. Lexical fields, that word association. And, you can see students discussing very simply the lexical field and, they give a whole selection of perhaps verbs or adjectives and they don't name the lexical field. We'll do more of a discussion on that within language devices, but keep your eyes open for those. I've mentioned persuasive devices here because persuasive devices, everybody knows a Write Forest or one of the known acronyms, but a lot of the persuasive devices sometimes are not necessarily just for persuasion. I mean, rhetorical devices can be used in other ways as well, not just to be persuasive. So keep your eyes open for them. And yes, then figurative language. And while figurative language in many ways is kind of like the poor cousin to textual analysis, okay, they are important. They are important, okay? And I've added contrast in with that figurative language. It's definitely something that appears in many of the texts that Cambridge provides us. Tip number 4, okay? So read the question carefully. Now, I know time is not on your side in this exam. I mean, there's a very strict, 135 minutes in total for both questions 1 and 2. So that gives you about 65 minutes per question. Okay. I mean, I've cut it down a little bit, to take into account, basically that perhaps that 1 minute silence and, re-switching back on the brain when you move on to question 2, perhaps for some planning, perhaps for having a drink of water or, taking out a new pen. Okay. But guys, it is so important. You're going to need that full 65 minutes for that question 2. Okay. And I will be doing videos that basically are going to be question specific for the paper 1 and paper 2. Okay. So when it comes to reading the question carefully, Cambridge designs, and this doesn't matter what exam, it's not just the English exam. Cambridge designs the questions in such a way that it basically is there to support you, guide you, and advantage you. And if you understand the question, those smaller little things that they're asking for. Now remember, this is the English paper, so they're going to be perhaps a little bit implied, but you need to make sure that you read the question closely. Now you've done 100 practice papers, maybe 200 practice papers, and you know exactly what the questions are going to say each time. But it's a great way to focus on what you have to do. I'm always telling my students, go back, keep reading your question, making sure that you stay on track, again, regardless of the exam paper, but very much so when it comes to the AS level English papers. So many students lose marks because they don't read the question. And you don't want to throw away marks in that, where Cambridge has actually given you support. They've said to you, these are the things that we are looking for. Okay. Tip number 5, point, evidence, explain. Now, there's 100 different acronyms out there. There's Point, Quote, Explain. There's Mr. Everything English's a pretzel method, okay? But that point, evidence, explaining, it's a tip. It is there to help you. You're not there to retell the story. You're not there to paraphrase the story. You're not there to summarize the text. Okay, if at any stage in that it looks like you're retelling, paraphrasing, or summarizing the information, stop. Okay, focus on the effect that is being created by the writer. Okay, be precise and to the point when you're writing your point, evidence, explain, PEE, your PQE, there's 100 of them, okay? Be precise and to the point. I know everybody's worried about maybe that 600 minimum word count on the paper too, okay? But quality always beats quantity. And it's that worry of that 600 words that everybody always starts going and paraphrasing and summarizing and trying to make the text more floofy. Yes, floofy is my own word, okay? So be precise, to the point, even if it's a short little paragraph. Put it down. This is my point, okay? This is where that topic sentence is so important. Remember, you want to help the examiner to give you marks. You want to give the examiner every opportunity to say, yes, the student understands how writers create effects. So give them the point, show the evidence, explain and expand is always a great idea, but expand on that, keeping in mind what your topic sentence is. So many times in that, I see students trying to cram 50 million different ideas into a paragraph. It's not worth it. It's going to dilute the effectiveness of what you are doing. Okay. So keep thinking to yourself the whole time. That is the question. Okay. How does the effect created by the writer affect the reader, or the overall purpose of the text? Okay, remember that writer didn't just sit down one day and decide, I'm going to write for myself. Okay, I'm going to write a letter to myself. That would be a waste of time. Okay, he's writing that piece of text irrespective of the text type, those key conventions, irrespective of the text type. They're writing it because they want to affect the reader in some way. And it's the smaller your quote, the more precise your quote, the more to the point you are, the clearer it's going to be. Okay? The big question that examiners are asking the whole time when they're analyzing your text is, does the student understand how effects are created in text? Okay? Their question is form, structure, and language. Focus on form, focus on structure, focus on language. Okay, and while the mark scheme says students can organize their response in any way, both questions 1 and 2 state that students must focus on form, structure, and language. And I suggested over and over again, okay, form, their high end. Okay, they're kind of like the top of the pyramid almost. Your key conventions, your purpose or purposes to your text. Your audience and how it's affected by the formality, the register of the text, the tone, the attitude of the writer. What is the overall style of the text? Okay, and I mean, you can discuss these in separate paragraphs. You can discuss them in one paragraph. It's probably best to kind of break it down a little bit. Okay, but then you've discussed form, because the evidence for form is going to be limited. The same as structural devices. As I said to you, you want to have about 2 or 3 structural devices within your text: the pace, the shifts in focus, chronology, dialogue, sentence and paragraph structures, the final end of basically what, the lowest common denominator, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. Okay. Get form out the way, get structure out the way, and then you've got the rest of the time to identify all of those other language devices using that point evidence explain, discussing the word classes used, the vocabulary, the figurative language. And if you do spot another structural device, well then, how's bells Betty White? Go ahead. Okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So, I wish you guys the best of luck if you're writing exams now. Happy exam season. Okay. Check out Teacher Adna's videos. I will put links at the bottom of the video to, she has probably one of the best channels on YouTube. Okay, when it comes to AS level or A levels English. Okay. Check out Lilica. Okay. Check out Lilica at Cambridge at Home. Okay. And please, guys, this is my first video. I'm going to be doing more videos. The more people that like and subscribe my videos, that I can make more videos. Ask questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And if there's enough people that like and subscribe my videos, I will then, do like an open session where we can basically just ask any questions we like. Okay. So my name is Teacher Nick. They call me Crazy Teacher Nick. And guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe.